How y'all doing with Pokemon Monsters, Hedgehogs, and Cajun Bones? The Parapon Gamer here. Real quick, I have an upload schedule set up. I said daily videos. I meant from this weekend onward. Don't worry, there are going to be daily videos. I didn't forget about my promises or anything. It's just when I, sat down and created the daily videos idea, my recording schedule was set up based around the weekend. Like, the weekend is going to be when I upload first. Like, the first couple of videos for daily videos go up on the weekend, and then the week, and going on, so on and so forth, etc., etc. But you get my point. My point is that daily videos are coming. It's just not going to be, it wasn't this week. This weekend and onward are going to be daily videos, I promise. So, E3 this year was, how do I put this nicely? Bad. It was bad. It was just bad. Easily one of the worst E3s we've had in, this decade. But, all of the companies had really good, they all had really good, bits and pieces. Sony had Spider-Man, God of War, those. Xbox had Sea of Thieves and Anthem, Forza Motorsport 7, and Nintendo, oh boy did they drop some bombshells. Nintendo came through. They gave us 3 big things that I'm excited for. We got Super Mario Odyssey gameplay, and we got a release date. It's launching October 27th this year. It's not exactly holiday like they said in January, but October 27th, that is a really good day. For me, at least, because that's, pretty close to my birthday, so if I have a Switch by then, I can probably get it. Number 2, which honestly really surprises me that this is number 2 and not number 1, Ishihara-san. Yeah, it's Ishihara. I keep messing up Izuka and Ishihara from Sega and Pokemon Company. But Ishihara-san, Tsunekazu Ishihara from the Pokemon Company and Game Freak, actually announced that they are in the middle of developing a new game, a new Pokemon game, a core main series RPG for Switch. In fact, this will be the first Pokemon game to ever come out. Well, the first core Pokemon game. There have been other Pokemon games, Stadium, Snap, the Pokepark, Pokepark. There have been other Pokemon games on console, but this will be the first core Pokemon RPG on console. But the one that easily took the cake as the most exciting announcement of E3, Nintendo's E3 easily, but dare I say it, most exciting announcement of E3, Metroid Prime 4 is in development for Switch. Now, when they showed it, Nintendo showed no footage of the game. There was absolutely nothing. In fact, I'll play you the exact clip that was in the thing. I'll play you the exact clip that they showed at E3. Right now. Take a look. That's all they showed. That's it. There was absolutely nothing else. There was no gameplay. There was no trailer. There was not even a shot of Samus. There was no what Energon. I forget what the blue stuff is. The Chozo stuff, ancient artifacts and stuff. There was absolutely nothing except the Metroid logo, like the S thing, in blue, in space, with a 4 in front of it, and the words Metroid Prime. That's all it was. It was that logo, black, a 4, and Metroid Prime. That's all there was. and people lost their minds. And I'm very proud to say that I was one of those people. Now, if you talk to a Sony fan or a Microsoft fan or even a Nintendo fan that's not into Metroid about this, they'll probably tell you, yeah, I have no idea why these people freaked out either. But as a person that has played the Metroid Prime games and very much enjoyed them, I can tell you right now why everybody's so hype. So guys, after all of that, we come to the intro. Here is why everybody freaked out at Metroid Prime 4. Here is the reason why that announcement was so great. And here is the reason why we're happy for Metroid Prime 4. Roll the intro! So guys, let me explain to you why, for every person that's ever played any Metroid game ever, Prime 4 is such a big deal. Now, there's pretty much two things that really make this up. A, the recent, I don't want to say downfall, but the recent downgrade in quality of the Metroid games. And B, well, it's Metroid Prime 4. And actually, there's another thing which I'll get to when we get there. So, let's start with the obvious. It's Metroid Prime 4. The first three Metroid Prime games are still some of the best rated games of that console generation. I don't care what you want to say about the PS2 beating out the GameCube by a mile. It's beaten out every single console by multiple miles. But the Metroid Prime games are still considered amazing games and are really considered one of the best 2D to 3D adaptations of a series. And the last Metroid Prime game we got was Metroid Prime 3 Corruption on the Wii back in 2007. So it came out on August 27th, sometime late August. So it's almost been a full decade since the last Metroid Prime game. And even Metroid Prime 3, which because, motion controls and such, it's considered to be probably the weakest link in the trilogy, but it's still rated really well. Everybody still loves Metroid Prime 3. So it just shows that even when the weakest link is still loved that much, that people still love Metroid Prime 3 that much, and they like Prime 1 and Prime 2 even more than that, that really shows the quality of the Metroid Prime games. The next reason why it's kind of surprising we got a Metroid Prime 4 is because of the recent downgrade in quality of the Metroid games. At E3 this year, we got two new Metroid announcements. We got A, Metroid Prime 4, which, there's a ton of people who are excited for that. And then B, to cater to the 2D Metroid audience, there's Metroid, I think it's Metroid Return of Samus? No, Samus Returns, that's what it is, for the 3DS. And Samus Returns looks great, don't get me wrong, but it's no Metroid Prime. No, recently, especially the last two big Metroid games that I can remember, they have been subpar, shall we say. And, of course, by the last two games, I mean Metroid Other M and Metroid Prime Federation Force. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that any Metroid game coming out after Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, coming after a Metroid Prime game, would have a really hard time staying afloat and really well rated in the market anyway, especially when it would be such a deviation from the core 3D gameplay that Metroid got with Prime and the Prime trilogy. But Metroid Other M was just boring. And Metroid Prime Federation Force had the Prime gameplay, third person or first person shooter kind of stuff, the same way that the first three Prime games have. Excuse me. But the reason that it wasn't, well rated as such was because it wasn't really a Prime game. It had sort of the Prime gameplay, and it had the subtitle Prime, but it wasn't a Prime game. You weren't playing as Samus, going around in a morph ball and taking down aliens and whatnot. You weren't doing any of the stuff that the actual Metroid Prime games did. You were just a person in the Federation Force going around with the sort of same gameplay as the original Prime games. It wasn't as compelling as the first 3 Prime games were. And I actually think that Prime 4 being announced after Prime Federation Force is also part of why it has gotten so much extra love than people think it deserves, because we just came off of what is probably the worst Metroid Prime game ever. But more than just it coming off of Prime Federation Force, I think people are more excited about Prime 4 because it shows that Nintendo is still willing to take what could be considered after, 2 big failures, well, I wouldn't say failures, but 2 big subpar, not really well-received games. They're still willing to have faith in the brand. Look, at the end of the day, Nintendo is still a corporation, okay? They want to make money off of their stuff, so they want to make sure that everything that they put money into, they're going to get money out of. And yeah, as a gaming company, they also kind of have to factor in the audience's reaction, because that also pretty much sometimes determines commercial success. So normally, a company that's put out 2 subpar games, both commercially and critically, critically isn't the right word for it, but as an audience, people didn't enjoy Other M or Prime Federation Force as much as they enjoyed Prime 1, Prime 2, and Prime 3. After putting out 2 subpar, commercially less, critically less, just an audience-wise, they didn't consider it as good as the first 3 Prime games, a company, a regular company, would probably think twice about making another game with the same brand name. And I think people were actually scared that Nintendo might give up on the Metroid franchise because it wasn't really making them money. But Nintendo showing the guts to still keep going with the Prime, with Metroid in general, not just Prime, but with Metroid in general, them having the guts to just keep going with Metroid really shows that they know that it's not going to be a dead franchise, and people were kind of scared that after the last 2 games not really living up to Nintendo's or the audience's expectations, that they might, kill the Metroid franchise entirely. So another part of the excitement for the game is because fans are now reassured that Nintendo still has faith in Metroid, and they're still willing to put out more Metroid games. And I think the other last thing, really, is the subversion of expectation. Recently, Nintendo's taken sort of a back-to-basics approach, you could say. Recently, they've gone back to the oldies and good time kind of things that they did with their newer games. They're going back to the old ways. For example, the new Super Mario Bros. They are the classic 2D platformers that people played on their couch as kids on their NES. The Zelda Breath of the Wild was literally just a 3D version of the older, first game. It's, open, you have no help, you have to do it by yourself. So, Breath of the Wild was literally just like the first game, but in a 3D modern environment. So if they had made, say, Samus Returns, the Metroid game on 3DS, the Metroid Samus Returns, if they had made that for Switch, people wouldn't really have cared. People would have cared. It's Metroid. They would have been like, oh, yay, Metroid. But it kind of fits in with Nintendo's whole business, marketing style right now, that they're going back to basics with their new Super Mario Bros. And even Mario Odyssey, to a certain extent, is going back to an older time of the N64 and GameCube days, where it's open world and stuff. So all of their game franchises are kind of going back to their roots. So it would have made sense that they made like a 2D platformer style thing, like in the old days, like the first Metroid or like AM2R or Metroid Samus Returns. It would have made sense if they put that on Switch and it was just a 2D action platformer game like the old days. It would have made sense and people would have still loved it. Like, they still love Samus Returns. But Nintendo's willingness to go to the 3D roots instead of the 2D roots going all the way back. Instead of going all the way back, they just went to Prime, which granted was their like 3D roots. But they're sticking with the 3D theme instead of going all the way back, which is what you would kind of expect them to do. And they did before the 3DS. For the Switch, their main flagship console right now, they're going back to 3D and not going all the way back to 2D. And I think the subversion of expectation there, where most people were just expecting them to put out a 2D game on Switch, 2D Metroid game on Switch, they, put out a 3D game. I think that's also part of what is going towards the excitement. There's more excitement for it because of the 3D. But those are just my thoughts on it. So guys, what do you think? I want to hear everything you have to say as well. What do you think about Metroid Prime 4? Still doesn't have a release date. I would say coming out, whatever, but it doesn't have a release date yet. So guys, what do you think about Metroid Prime 4? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video if you like this video. Comment below how hyped you are for Metroid Prime 4. And do you agree or disagree with my points I made here? And if you do disagree, or you agree but have further points you would like to make, I would also like to see them in the comment section below. Subscribe to get alerts when new videos come out, including videos like this where I stay in front of a camera and talk to you guys, but also gameplay videos of older games, newer games, whatever I have, really. And hit the bell to join the notification squad and get alerts when new videos come out. Subscribing just occasionally notifies you, occasionally puts my videos on your homepage, and also puts my videos in your subscription feed. So hit the bell to join the notification squad. Share with friends about bad YouTubers such as myself. And honestly, I don't plug my social media all that often, but I have a Twitter at MewPower26. That's at MEW, Mew, like the Pokemon Power 26, all one word. And I have an Instagram, PowerPumpkin_gamer, all lowercase. So guys, if you want to check out my social media, I suggest you go and do that. I won't link them in the description, but if you have a Twitter or an Instagram, you already saw I already told you my handle, my Twitter handle, and my Instagram account name. So, go and check that out, and yeah. So guys, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm the PowerPumpkin Gamer. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys next time. Love you guys. My lights are out. Wow. Oh God.